Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of my Oxygen Not Included playthrough. So today's episode, I'm not entirely sure how I want to progress just yet, but the first thing I really want to do is explore more of the map to see what resources we have available. One thing I've noticed is we're actually starting to run a bit out of water. We're not completely out yet, but we need to start considering some methods to increase that production. To that end, I'm going to start storing ice in these to not only help keep this water cool, but hopefully, when it inevitably melts, it'll turn into more water. Because how containers work, all this ice is going to get merged together at one temperature, and it's going to take a very long time to warm up this ice if it was the full 20,000 kilograms. So instead, I'm going to put it about 5,000 each. We're going to wait till these are built first and set these all to the same. That way it not only melts and keeps the place cool, but also keeps adding more water. We do have some ice, I think, dug up, yeah, that we definitely want brought in and used for actually useful purposes and not just being lost to the outside. Also do have some blueprints. You can check out what they are. Not bad. Got another one. A magma wedge. Eh. Oh, it's just those two. I think I'm just gonna have a ladder come down. I'm gonna sidestep this ice biome to try to keep it intact. Everything in there is very valuable. We'll make our way over to this ladder and continue it down. I do see there's a bit of an ice biome. We might have to keep shimmying to the side to get out of the way. I don't know if it's worth it. I do want to come down somewhere around here. Not only to see more of the map, but to see if it's better to come down this way instead of all the way through there. The big thing is just exploring and seeing what geysers we have available to us. What other resources we want. Getting down to the oil biome too would be nice. Not a goal I'm focused on this episode, but there's a lot of pretty valuable resources down in the oil biome. The biggest issue with exploring right now, though, is we don't really have that much oxygen to be feeding into our suits. I did notice, too, that to the side it's a little higher pressure-wise, so I'm going to set this a bit higher than that, because we were wasting a bit of power. We do have this we could make use of. Our cool slush geyser, especially since it's still outputting at that 22, so if we were to purify it and then dump it, that would be a pretty good source. I've also not been mentioning it much recently, but we've been keeping the slime one down really well. It's kind of stuck in this carbon dioxide, not really growing or spreading, just kind of stuck down here. The chlorine's keeping it away from the rest of our oxygen, so as far as I'm concerned, that's plenty good. Yeah, if this place weren't covered in slime lung, I'd be willing to just throw them down into it. I do think there exists a better method for exploring the outside rather than just immediately jumping to Atmos suits, and that's those gas masks, or oxygen masks. I don't even have the research for it yet. We did to make all the Atmos suits we wanted, so I'm going to start making a couple more of these paintings, just one per each room. And it looks like we have enough for actually all of them. Yeah, we really need a lot more oxygen. I think it's time to crack these open. We don't need to crack that rightmost one. 4 of these should be plenty. Yeah, now that drops down a bottle, and that bottle will off gas. These deodorizers will catch the polluted oxygen and turn it into clean oxygen. I think I'm temporarily going to disable this just to get a little more done around the base, and also give these some time to build up their oxygen. So this is not perfect, but this should catch most of it. As we can see here, there's hardly any polluted oxygen, and the second there is, it gets sucked up immediately. I'm sure there is a case where some of it would slip away eventually, but it's so few far in between. We have a couple of deodorizers around the base that's going to catch it. While waiting for them to explore around, I wanted to talk again about why I really like this game. I know I said before that it's one big problem, and I still think that's true. You can break that up into a bunch of little ones and keep chipping them away until you eventually get your end goal, which typically is breaching that temporal tear. But I think there's some other things that are really good about this game. One of my favorite things, and it's kind of why I had the sound so loud at the beginning, is I really love the sounds they make. Like just even the little breathing sound, the sound of them digging. The sound of digging and clicking around. It's all just very satisfying. I'm shocked no one's made like an ASMR channel about this game yet. I also really like the automation because it kind of appeals to my comp sci stuff with all those conditional statements. Another thing I really enjoy is solving crises, like running out of oxygen or food and trying to find an emergency solution. This game is generally pretty relaxing, but having those crises puts some more urgency in the game of getting certain things done in a certain order. It makes it almost like a puzzle. I also think the art style is very impressive. The consistency really shows. And I think they did a phenomenal job designing everything, make everything look and feel unique. Lastly, as I'm sure you're aware, I also think the soundtrack's really good. I use it in the ending of all my videos. I'm not too big on music, but I think it's pretty solid through and through. Yeah, since they don't have to worry about the Atmos use, they can move around a little faster now. We got a cool steam vent that's going to help us produce a ton of water in the future. The issue being they can't really breathe very well out here. The suits are kind of a necessity. I've also learned those we're just not producing enough power to keep up with everything. Between the diffusers, the water sieve, the pump here, all being powered by this one coal generator. So we're going to have to switch off soon, or put in another coal generator. If this hydrogen were a little more abundant, I'd be willing to try to use it as a power source. We're going to next get these superheated forging research. Like I said, we're just going down the list at this point. I guess we did miss that in this, but I'm more likely to use the things in this category than up there. We did just get another blueprint too. And I think I already have that one. I'm gonna see if I can hook up a second pump, because I've realized there's a ton of oxygen around the base that we just can't really use, or that we aren't using. Let's put it nice and central. You know what, I think I'm gonna move this. To avoid overcrowding that one circuit, we're gonna put it a little further down. I'm not really sure what's happened, but this dupe is just kind of good at everything now. Mr. Otto. We'll give Otto some suit wearing. Ari will get demolition. Devin, I think we're going to hold on to for now. Charles will get construction. Catalina will also get construction. We'll give Camille ranching too, so we have a second rancher. I know it's not her preferred, or she's even very good at it, but she'll get better over time. We'll give Pei exosuit training. Lee will also get exosuit training. Nicola will give him improved carrying. I'm going to start with just a little bit of steel production. First we need to get some refined carbon, but once we get that, then we can start making steel. Now this will produce a ton of heat, but that should be offset by this cold up here. Because we're not using Atmos suits, we're starting to incur a lot of slime lung, which is keeping them slower and kind of defeating the purpose of not using the Atmos suits. I think we've got enough in there to where I'm willing to enable this again. We're just going to go down and get this robo miner. Maybe I shouldn't accept it, because it's going to flood down my base. You know what? I think I'm just going to dig this out. That way it can just drop down into here, out of the way. I think this is a lot easier than just whatever this nightmare is. Yeah, this is really keeping us supplied with oxygen. This has been running basically non-stop now. At least for as long as it has power. I'm also going to take a quick look at the summary. And there's a lot of achievements right there. I do want to put in a little more decoration, especially on their way out. So we're going to make use of these trims. Using granite, since that gives us the highest decor. Do the corners there. And that through the middle. That should provide a nice boost to this whole hallway. With the refined carbon being finished, we're going to set iron to steel forever. Basically, whenever we have the resources, we want to be making steel. While we are waiting for them to kind of finish up stuff outside and around, I want to set up a new kind of ranch. Well, I guess I shouldn't say a completely new kind, but a ranch we don't have yet. And that's going to be for dreckos and eventually glossy dreckos. There's two ways to make plastic in this game. You either go down to the oil biome and you refine it, or you do glossy dreckos. And to me, glossy dreckos is a lot more hassle-free. To get glossy dreckos, we're going to start ranching dreckos first. Now I'm going to set up something that looks like a water lock, but because of the whole density of hydrogen gas, we shouldn't need to actually set up a water lock. Just kind of the shape of one should be fine, because it'll keep the gas from going up and out. With the glossy Drecko Ranch, we need to fill it with hydrogen. That's how the Dreckos regrow their hides. We also do need a little bit of oxygen in there to maintain the plants we want to be farming for them so they can eat and turn into glossy Dreckos. I've realized this space is actually pushing it in terms of size. This is the maximum size. Well, this is the maximum size we can have for a ranch, and so we actually can't make it as big as we want. Now, one thing we do need to do too is bring this down a little so we have space for our crops, our mealwood. So this right now is actually the maximum size we can have for this ranch. It's 88 there with an 8 down here, which should put us at 96. So I think I'm going to get our hydrogen by cracking into these little areas that have hydrogen in them, pulling them together, and then putting a pump up and pumping it in. We're going to deconstruct all those ladders. Also going to properly swap these out for farm tiles. Really what I'm looking for out here is a natural gas geyser. Natural gas is kind of the next step we want to take in our power production, but we can't really do that until we find a reliable source of it. We can finally start to get rid of some of these pipes. And that one, and that one. I know we did just build it, but... And perfect. Now we never have to mess with these again. It's finally clean. I think that's our next big milestone, is getting a constant supply, or at least a efficient supply of steel and plastic. So now this room's a little set up. We're going to put in some of the typical ranch stuff of the critter drop-off. We'll get the grooming station. Now, special for this one, we will need the shearing station. If I can spell it right. There we are. This is how we actually get the hides off of the Dreckos. To avoid stressing this circuit, I think I'm going to turn this into a joint plate temporarily. And we're just going to make use of this heavy watt wire. This will need power to the shearing station, but it's not going to be constantly running. Luckily, we should be able to just put a gas pump in that's right on the line. We'll also need a vent. I could just try to pump hydrogen in to force all these other gases out, but because of how dense some of this gas is, I don't think it's going to work like that. So I think we're going to need both to pump some stuff out and pump the hydrogen in. We're going to make a little more iron ore. We'll do 20. We shouldn't really need too much gold, but I'm going to queue some up so we have it ready. And then same here. Let's see how they're getting around. Oh, I think there might be one more, but this is one of the last story events, is this somnium synthesizer. This is kind of the one I was looking for. Now, truthfully, I don't know if we're going to be able to make good use of this, especially anytime soon. It requires basically 6 inactive dupes, which it's not like we couldn't support it. We clearly have enough food, but this would require 6 dupes doing basically nothing but sleeping, and a pretty constant supply of hydrogen, which we just don't have. I'll consider it more once we get our electrolyzers down. I see. Okay. So they keep walking back because I've set this to be built out of sandstone when I should have made it out of igneous rock. That way they don't have to go as far. I might need to do that for the other ladders. That might be why they're taking so long. We'll disable this for now since we're just kind of burning power. So I usually don't include this in the episodes very often, because I think it's not the most interesting to show off, but if you're ever confused about something, this database up here contains so much useful information. Like, it tells you, here I'm on the Drecko page, how many tiles that each Drecko needs for it to not feel crammed. So 12 cells per Drecko divided by the 96 gives us 8 Dreckos that we can have in this room. We want to make sure this is no more than 8. We're actually starting to get some of our fluorescent back too. It's not like we have no polluted oxygen in our base, but this is killing off most of it, and the door is keeping back the rest of it. Now whenever this door opens, all this stuff is going to come flooding in, and that's a little scary. This is actually extremely dense gas. I don't know how it's gotten so dense. Yeah, that's going to really if that door ever opens again, this place is going to get destroyed. We're getting close to our first ton of steel. I think with that steel, one of the first things I want to do is try to tame this volcano. Steel is kind of the last thing we really needed. We might need more than we currently have, which is why I'm not rushing this. Now remember to keep this clogged, or to keep it from outputting, which is very important in the case of a volcano. 1 over and 2 up from the leftmost neutronium. Ideally, we're going to try to dig this up when it's dormant and get it built around it. Now, the dormancy period for volcanoes is a lot longer than, let's say, our slush geyser right here. This is every 71.8 cycles. I think it's double that for a volcano. That's perfect. We got steel in the... I didn't even know we could get steel in the printing pod. The Weezewort's kind of nice, too. I'm a little caught. I think we need steel the most right now. I'm not going to talk about all the stuff we get from the printing pod now, since most of it's just going to be items, but the steel is pretty noteworthy. I see, this is already filling up with Simon again. They just used the door like once or twice. I think what I want to do is set up another Atmo suit checkpoint like we have over here. The only issue being is now they won't really get advantage of this nature reserve we've set up. But I think having more Atmo suits would be better than losing out on the 6 morale we could get from having a nature reserve. Just based on the height, I think we're about to break into the oil biome. I do think we are quite a ways away from hitting the space biome way up there. We do actually have all the pipes and whatnot set up, so I'm going to set that to start sucking up. And this will be if it's above, we'll say 600 grams, which has been pooling up here. We do have a... Oh, oh my god, that was awful. I'm a little traumatized, I'm going to be honest. Oh, I didn't even notice. We're about to hit cycle 100. I'm quivering in anticipation. Hooray! Yippee! That's it. No more celebration. New Year's has happened. Move on with your lives. Okay, so one issue I just realized about this pump is it's going to start sucking up the hydrogen. I think then we're going to bring this down for now. Move everything down accordingly. Let's get rid of all of our automation. There's so much of it. And we basically want as much of this full of hydrogen as possible. Ideally, it'd be better if we just vacuumed it out, which would require a water lock, but we don't have the space for that. So we do want to leave just enough oxygen or polluted oxygen or carbon dioxide right here, but the rest of this we want as much hydrogen as possible. And it looks like our reserves are getting pretty full too. These will fill up before these are even ready to go, and you'll keep producing even more polluted oxygen, which will give you more oxygen. You'll be all set. Decoration in here too is now looking a lot better thanks to these ceiling trim tiles. Definitely not perfect, but this is probably the best decor I've had in an earlier base. I guess we're now starting to break out of the early game and getting into the mid-game with the production of steel and soon to be plastic. Oh, that's so scary to look at. That's how it kind of blended in. I thought we accidentally dug it up. I thought I was about to just start putting heat out. Yeah, so this is idle, not dormant. We're going to leave this for now. I think we're going to build the shell around it and then do the proper research later. I'm not sure to what extent, how much heat we can get out of our volcano. Because it's going to come out at this 2,526. And eventually we're going to probably put this in a steam room. And use steam turbines and aqua tuners. And if you don't know what those are, that's fine. I'll go into them more later when we actually start putting some down. But this room in here will be about 200 degrees, and then we'll have to cool it somewhere else, and then we can finally make use of that resource. Who knows? I might actually try to design one myself. I've only ever tamed one volcano before, and it was a copper one. And I think these ones do produce a little hotter, so it is a little daunting. Not entirely sure why, but this first batch is actually a lot cooler. It'll be balanced out by the rest of the base, and honestly, we need it a little cooler in here. Because while the yellow isn't bad, we want it more towards a green. Because our base used to actually be green, believe it or not. Yeah, I think this is kind of having the opposite effect now, where this whole thing is just full of stuff we don't want. The gas is actually getting pretty sparse. The issue is all of our hydrogen is here now. Now that's just kind of turned into a really dressed up mealwood farm. This is 5 high accidentally, but I'm going to take advantage of that and shrink this room down. And then we are going to set up a water lock, vacuum it out, properly pump it full of hydrogen. Oh, and we got another one right here. It's a... I don't know why we have so many of these. It's the third one. And that's plenty of water. So we'll break these. And he's just going to keep spitting out gas until this room is vacuumed out. Slowly but surely this room will be vacuumed out. The issue is as you keep going on, it gets harder and harder to suck the gas out. So even though right now it's going pretty fast, it will slow down eventually. I'm going to start wrangling up any dreckos I can find around the base. I kind of want to pump this out too, but everywhere we go is so pressurized. The only thing I can really think to solve it is to just start digging stuff out. I'm going to set that like that, and I will just... This won't be much in the grand scheme of things, but it's a start. This whole area can eventually just go. Out here, we really don't care too much about how it ends up. The ice biomes we want to preserve, but everything else can just kind of go to waste. So when you're vacuuming something out, you go from kilograms to grams to milligrams to micrograms, and then once you're under about 5 micrograms, then the gas will start destroying itself. That's kind of the point we're waiting for. But as we get less and less gas, it gets harder and harder to suck it out. Moving forward, we'll end up making a lot more of these, especially as we start getting into our aqua tuner stuff when we want to set up steam rooms. The issue being, the bigger the room, the harder it is to vacuum out. We can set up multiple gas pumps, but it's never a fun time to try to vacuum something out. What is fun, though, is refilling it up afterwards. And now that the vacuum's starting to spread, this should empty out really soon. Once the vacuum starts to spread, it's basically over. Well, I guess the vacuum can't really spread, since it's just the lack of everything else, but you know, like the whole speed of dark thing. It's just gonna keep crushing itself into oblivion. There it goes. Alright. So now we set this to what it properly should be, about 600. And this time let's see it actually happen properly. And here it comes. You know what? That almost made it all just worth it. And now we just need to let this room fill up a little more. I think that's all I've got for today, though. I will see you guys next time.